What happens if I bring this down a little bit? I could just like bring it down just a little bit. Okay. All right. Hello, 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 hello. Hello. How's it going? It's fantastic to see everybody. And, well, actually, there's nobody in here yet, but there's probably going to be some people in here. I don't know, because I can't really update things because of an app. Anyways, so I am live currently on YouTube and on TikTok. And I want to say hello first off before I bring my 10-inch gong into the equation and begin gonging away. Because we need the gong, okay? You're probably wondering, why do we need the gong? Because we need to cleanse the motherfucking energy. So that's what's gonna happen. And, yeah, we'll see what the fuck happens. I have no idea what we're gonna do today other than just I'm showing up here and I'm queer. This is just, okay, I'll stop, okay. But I'm showing up on 2 different apps and we'll see what happens. And, I am still recovering from walking pneumonia, and I have been exposed to influenza A right now, so I'm kind of not doing so hot. I live with a bunch of people who are sick with influenza A, so that's just lovely, you know. So we'll just add that to the equation. So I've been feeling not so great, but feeling the vibe. Okay, so I'd like to do some readings. Diane's got the right idea. Diane, I will be answering your question first because you asked. You're welcome. But before we get started, I just want to remind you guys that I am Brittany and I combine psychology and spirituality to help people work through emotional issues. So I primarily read trauma and patterns and cycles, and I use psychic mediumship, ancestral trauma healing, quantum healing, akashic records, you name it. I like to fucking dabble in it, and I'm playing with it somehow, some way. Yeah, so anyways, I'm live a lot. Usually I'm live a lot. I have been sick and going through hell and back the last 6 months, so I kind of took a little bit of a back burner and just focused more on, you know, my private clients and things like that. And so with that said, I am here and we're gonna get started. Okay, so let's gong it out. First off, if you don't know what this is a wind gong. I had to look on the back because I forgot what the name of this was because there's different types. This was hand hammered, okay? So it probably looks like shit, right? You're like, whoa, Brittany, this looks fucking like rough, okay? Okay, it's because it is, okay? It was hand hammered, okay? Like it, not like, okay, not literally like a hand ham. Okay, you know, you get the point, right? Like, do you, like, maybe I don't make any sense. Okay, anyways. So, it's 10 inches long, and, what do I love about this thing? This thing is great. You know, it's loud, it's powerful, it's here to show up. Did you know that there's certain parts of the gong that you hit that actually can, like, cleanse your energy, like, based in, like, the certain, organs that you have? Like, if you hit over here, it's more the kidneys versus over here, more the lungs. I probably need it mostly up here and here, like heart and lungs, because of feeling sick, but I'm gonna hit it everywhere. Okay, so with that said, let's just listen as much as you can. Hopefully the audio won't cleanse it out. But anyways, if you don't know what fucking energy is, literally everything is energy. Music, your voice, the octave that you speak out of. Okay, everything is energy. Okay, so that's besides the point. So we established that, you know that. Cool. Get the cleansing of the energy happening. I'm gonna hit it up here. Try at least heart chakra. Okay. I'm hitting the heart chakra. And now I'm hitting the lungs. Yeah. So there's different ways to use different types of gongs, okay? There are so many different types of gongs, but the wind gong I love the most. It's just so fucking beautiful. Okay. So feel that in your bones, get it all there, and let me go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and open up a healing realm. And okay. All right. Okay. So you're probably like, what the fuck are you doing, Brittany? Doing some woo-woo shit. Okay, I opened up a healing realm. I didn't want to just like come in here and like, when I read people and when I do private sessions and things like that, I do not ever sit back and like just leave it up to my own sense of self. I always open up a healing realm so that we can bring in ascended masters, ascended teachers, ascended healers, things like that, so that we can like increase the healing vibes of the energy. Okay, so with that said, first person that I said I was going to read, I said Diane. So for those of you that are not familiar with my live streams, I want to stress to you guys, we do not just piggyback off of reading. So don't come in here, you know, saying, well, you know what, Glenn Coco, you know what helped me? I found Jesus. And I found, okay, because you might have found Jesus, but that other person might not find him yet. Okay, he might not be ready for the Jesus. He might be needing some more time doing some other shit. Okay, let him do his thing. You do your thing, and they do their thing. You stay in your motherfucking lane. The same thing goes for, because like people up the wazoo. There was this one time I was doing a live stream, and I'm like sitting there explaining like what the fuck, you know, is going on. And this person that I was reading, because again, I'm reading trauma, guys. Somebody comes into the fucking live stream and starts talking about like, oh, well, you know, like it just like, you know, meditation is what you really need to be doing because like that's what's going to help you. And like the person that I was reading, if she was to go meditate, that would, number one, be very futile. And then number two, her nervous system is wound up. It's dysregulated. So like at that point, trying to sit down and close her eyes and trying to go into like a trance state in meditation is like fucking impossible. Okay. So I like, and that just angers me. Okay. It angers me because y'all motherfuckers, okay, just no. Okay. I try to be respectful, and you try to be respectful too, or get the fuck out of the live. Okay, just thought I should clarify that. And again, love the extra tidbits of advice. Got a lot of people telling me to get some mullein for my cough and my chest cold shit. Honey bunches of oat. I'm seeing a doctor. Okay. Going to listen to the doctor, and I'm also going to listen to my spiritual guide team who's directing me in the proper way to heal my body. Thank you for the unsolicited advice. Okay, I just thought I should clarify that in case, you know, we had some issues with unsolicited advice. Okay, so in this live, I also do generally you know, explain how I read people because, you know, in case you're trying to read people or you're trying to learn to read people or you're just curious about how the fuck I'm getting the messages I'm getting, I try to share and be as transparent as I can about how I'm getting that information. So yeah, I'm a little rusty with the live streams. You know, I'm used to going live a lot and I slowed down a little bit and it's like the weeks passed, you know, without me going live and it's pretty scary, right? Like life just kind of keeps going by, you know? Okay. It's just that got like really dark. Okay. So, thank you guys for being here with me. Thank you guys on YouTube for being here with me. Let's go ahead and get started. So first person that I'm reading, and guys, you can throw spiritual questions into the chat. You know, like throw all kinds of different things in the chat. We'll just figure it out together and go with it. So right now, before I get started, I'm going to just say this. What am I feeling in my body right now? I'm feeling, like, I'm feeling a bit of nervousness. I haven't been live a lot in the recent days, so I'm feeling a little bit like, I guess you could say a little bit of pressure to perform. I'm feeling a little bit uneasy because, my body doesn't feel exactly so amazing right now, so I'm a little bit like uneasy with that. I would say, with readings, reading people on a live stream, I always get nervous. And it's like, it doesn't matter how long I've been doing this work and how many lives I've done or how many readings I've done, I still get anxious, I still get nervous, and I still doubt myself at times. So that's what I'm feeling right now. So now that I've thrown that all out on the table, I'm going to hand it over to Spirit. And all I'm going to ask is that you continue to like the live stream, like the, share comments, talk with me, and yeah, so let's just get right into it. So Diane, and I'm going to be as quick as I possibly can so I can get some of you guys done and get you feeling some feels. If you are interested in private sessions or anything like that, my link information is in my bio, or visit brittanylarson.com. And I would love to sit with you personally on a Zoom call where I can actually help you and assist you. And I swear to fucking God, like, I am not interested in just giving you a fucking message and sending you away. I'm interested in helping you come up with a strategy plan so that you can actually go somewhere with your life instead of just sitting there feeling helpless or hopeless in situations. Okay, so Diane's like, oh my God, she's been like, okay, anyways. So Diane, should I take the new promotion? So first off, something that I am noticing with my body, since I said that I was going to read you, I feel this need to over-explain myself. I feel like even right now, my body language, I'm like hyper-fixated on my feet, my legs, all the way down to like even where, like how my toes are placed. And I wish I could show you how my toes are being placed right now, but like my toes are literally like, it's like they're on the tips. Everything's on the tips and I'm sitting down. Okay. And like, as I'm sitting down, I'm like, I should stand up. I should stand up. I need to get up. I need to get up. I need to like get moving. I need to start going. I need to start going. First off, I feel like we're kind of ignoring some of the warning signs that are within our body right now. And I feel like the warning sign that's coming up for your body is not that you have to stop and slow down and just get with it. It's that you are on the edge of your seat right now where there is a need to move forward, but there's also a need to make sure that you balance your energy out. Because the next thing that I'm seeing, at least what Spirit's showing me, is like as if I am like tripping over myself. There's nothing in front of me that could trip me, but it's like I've walked the same floor over and over and over again, and I'm like stumbling over me to get to where I think I need to be. So Diane, what I'm going to say to you is there a new promotion? Is there something like that you should take and step forward? And yes, I feel like there's a need to step forward. However, I also want to encourage you to balance this, meaning, can you really calculate the cost of energy and what is required of you in this new promotion and in this new step forward? The reason that I'm saying that is because I feel like what I think I'm headed towards, what I think I'm moving in the direction of, is not actually what it really is. Does that make sense what I'm saying? I don't know if that makes a lot of sense, but what I'm saying is like it's like as if it's like, here, we're offering you this, but it's really like this, but we're still saying it's like this, but it's going to be like this. And it's like, I feel like I'm stumbling forward because I've been waiting for so long and I'm so excited and like, and this is what I've wanted. But then at the same time, it's like, there's some sort of thing that I'm not getting enough information on first. So can you ground first? Like bring your feet to a full, like flat, like make sure they're fully flat on the ground and regulate yourself because you're valued, you're needed, and this isn't just going away. You can slow down just a little bit to balance everything, because I feel like what will happen in the coming months is if we are kind of operating in this like on the edge of our seat, stumbling over ourselves, trying to get through and get to what we think we're headed to, it's first off, it's a sense of false stability and a false structure that's being created, which then will ultimately lead to you falling backwards and stumbling rather than you getting more grounded and more stabilized as you move forward. So do I feel like you should take it? Yes. But I do think you need to understand everything that entails. And I feel like there's a little bit of a negotiation here involving your throat chakra, where there is a need to communicate outward and really express what your needs are and what the demand is that's going to be in front of you, and ask the right questions to understand what exactly you're getting involved with. I'm getting more from spirit caution before moving forward. Okay. And that's where I'm going to leave that one. I hope that helps a little bit. And please take care of your body, take care of yourself, and remember that you are always safe here. And yeah, that's where I'm going to leave that one. Thank you. Okay. Earth Angel, are you still in the live? Okay. Earth Angel, you said, is Alex coming back? So when I first read that question, my instant response was, like, I saw a person like standing facing the, like, okay, so I guess I should kind of explain the whole image of what I saw, because it happened really fast. And then when I went to Diane and focused on Diane, I was like, why am I I was focused on Diane, and then when I came back in and I looked again at the message, I again saw the same image. So there's a part of me that feels like there's some symbolism, not literal. This isn't like a literal thing. I'm talking about like symbolically here. So for me, I see a person standing facing a white wall, and this white wall looks like, and there's a significance to why I'm seeing a white wall specifically like that. But this like white wall, is like a cinder block white wall, and it's been like painted over. So it's like all the cinder blocks were put in and blah, blah, blah. And then it's just like this bare, naked, white color that was painted over. Anyways, but this person is facing this white wall, and I look to just the right of this person, and there's another wall that's more like a dry wall, like just like smooth white, and it's like butting up against this like cinder block wall, and it's like so basically the person's standing at the corner but not directly in the corner. And I feel like it's significant. Number one, this person's looking away from me, right? And I have to stress this person isn't that far energetically, because the fact that the person is still in the same room and I'm still in the same room, and it's like the point of view of being in the same room and like looking, and then the person is like staring at the wall and like directly on the wall. I feel like there's like a part of this that Alex, like I keep wanting to say butt hurt. And so right at this moment, there isn't more activity that's going to happen. However, I don't feel like it's closed or done or ended completely, because there is a symbolism of being in the same room as that person, and they're just like kind of looking off into the corner. Kind of like, how like when a child like has to, take a break or whatever, and they're like kind of forced to kind of like, like, I don't know, like they get in trouble, or like they like get a punishment and they have to go stand in the corner, like back in the old days. I'm just kidding. It's not the old days, but like back when, I was a kid, when that was a punishment, because now you can't do that with your kids, but you get my point, you get my vibe. So it's like, right, like, so what I'm getting at with you in layman terms, okay, there's a significance in the whiteness, meaning rebirth, new generation, new energy, right? But I feel like it's not over. It's like it's just not over, because like there's so much more that has to happen, and it's like there's not a close, but it's like there's like this feeble attempt at it being a close, and I don't know why I'm saying it that way, but it's like a feeble attempt. And so my thing is, naturally, when I read energy, I mean, like, come on now, like we could talk about like, people, places, and things, like, talk about like, people staying, people going, We could talk about soulmates and twin flames and all of this like hunky-dory, like romantic bullshit, right? Or I can just straight up fucking say this to you from one soul to another. You are here on this planet for a limited amount of time. You are finite, right? So you are a celestial being in this finite bodysuit that is limited. It is limited at the capacity of understanding that it currently has. It is limited at the knowledge base that it will gain by the end of its life. It is temporary. So with that said, temporary, and you're focused on one person, this person who has their back to you at this moment, who's not even done with you officially, which honestly, I don't know how you can respect somebody who literally goes back and forth, because if they keep going back and forth, it's degrading to your energy and it's degrading to their energy at the same time. So a big thing that I need to say here is, how much longer will you put up with this? What part of you feels that you need this to move forward? What part of you really truly feels that this person, of all the people that could be in the infinite universe, why this person? And there's a lot of symbolism in why you're looking at Alex and the concerns that you have around that, but there is a lesson in this experience. And what if it's not about being with the person? And that's where I'm going to leave that. Because I would love to say a lot more, but I feel like if I was going to say a lot more, it would need to be in a session, because boy, do I have a lot to say. Okay, so with that said, thank you guys for patiently waiting. Let's go ahead and keep on keeping on in the morning time. Bow, 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 wow, 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 wow. Hey, Shanti, how you doing? I'm doing okay, yeah. Bow, 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 wow. I'm pretty sure I'm fighting influenza A. That's self-diagnosed. Just because, like, I'm breathing the same air as everybody in the house who has influenza A. So, like, consistently. Like, yeah, so we got that going on, so that's how I'm doing. Bow, 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 bow. Okay, and I'm on the YouTube. Bow, 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 bow. Okay, Okay, and I have to stress to you guys, if you're getting DMs from people claiming to be me, no, the fuck it's not me. The reason that it's not me is because that takes too much fucking effort. And then also I have to stress there's like about 100 and something accounts on TikTok claiming to be me, and like they reach out to people and they're like, oh, like, what's up? Like, like Grand Rising or something like that. I get screenshots all the time about it. But no, I do not reach out to people regarding readings. In order for you to book a session with me, you'd have to go to my link information in my bio or go to my website, and you'd be booking like a scheduled session, and then you'd get a Zoom link, and then I'd expect you to meet up at that Zoom link time, and I'd want you to hang out in that video call with me so we could do some deep ass fucking healing work. And I try to give it like between 20 to 30 minutes for my smaller session, and then like about 60 to 80 minutes, like kind of like that kind of time frame, because I talk so much about the healing shit that people have to go through. Diane, and do homework. Yes, people everywhere they all have to do homework. Homework is a constant thing. Yeah. Can we not spam the live stream? I mean, it's okay if you spam it a little bit, but damn, slow down just a little bit. It's like being in the same room saying, Brittany, 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 Brittany. And then I'm just like, hello, how are you doing? It's okay, no problem. Okay, so with that said, I do want to just okay, so just for a moment before I start reading again, I feel like there's some stuff I want to say. Hello, Gina. How are you doing? I feel like I want to talk about something spiritual for a minute. Like, do you guys have any like spiritual shit that you want to talk about? Anything interesting coming up in the last, like, you know, like, I don't know, like anything? You got anything for me? Nothing. Nothing. We got nothing. So we got something. I don't know. Oh, Gina, I'm doing okay. I'm glad you're doing good. So, question for you guys. How many of you all feel like a shift in the energy? Like, since, you, like, I don't know, like, I guess since October all the way into, like, January so far, how much of you feel a shift in energy? Hello, are you here? I be thinking about you every night. Yes, okay. So a lot of you guys are feeling the shift in fucking energy, right? Like there's a huge shift and it doesn't feel good. Some people are kind of like, first off, people are, since October, people have gone through breakups, you know, gone through like shifts with their family dynamics. What would it look like manifesting? Spirit, give me some examples of what that looks like. Spirit says feeling lost with no sense of direction, feeling abandonment, feeling lonely, feeling boxed in, like almost like a caged animal, like where there's like this energy of like feeling enraged but having nowhere to put the energy, but then not identifying it as enragement, but then like being very, very conflicted with how to move forward and onward with your own life, right? And you're having more cold-like symptoms, feeling fatigue, and even a sense of confusion about where you're headed, and even bouts of like, I guess you could call it depression, but it doesn't feel like a normal depression where it's like you feel like this like paralyzing energy. It's like almost like a loss of words, a loss of like, it's like being chronically numb around you. Feels like I'm hitting the mark, huh? Yeah. So, welcome to the new reality. Hello. So when we go through a massive shift in our own energy, our body chemistry starts to alchemize differently. And so when it's showing up differently, like when we're talking about like the aura layers and things like that, when that's starting to show up differently, it's presenting in the world differently. So our perspective is shifting, and as that perspective is shifting, what once worked for us in the past is no longer gonna work, right? You got to find that new alignment, the new energy of what resonates with you and how you feel you're connected. And also with that, it's like the stuff that's old that you've already learned that may not work in the past will work now, and the stuff that you were doing up until that point, that's no longer gonna like align. So I'll just be honest and straightforward with you guys. I went through a period starting in October. I went through a breakup, and then well, honestly, the whole 2024 was a really fucking intense year, like of lessons and changes and things like that, and letting go and just uncertainty, like not knowing what direction to move in, and a lot of waiting, just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I had years dedicated to, you know, my social media account and things like that, and working so hard to like, you know, create the atmosphere that I wanted to, create a community, right? And I had spent years on my business, like, you know, like really working on like connecting with other people and things like that. And I would say towards the end of 2024, like towards like October when I went through my breakup, I felt like I lost my mojo. And I feel like the reason that I lost my mojo wasn't because, like, you know, I wasn't doing what really aligned with me. It was more that I had to really examine the reasons why I do what I do. Like, why do I do this work? Why do I do sessions with people? Why do I use my abilities in the way that I do? Because first off, every single person on the planet has abilities. You all have the ability to see and hear and feel and smell and taste and even know, but not everybody, number one, feels called to do that work. And then also, too, not everyone is going to use it in the same way. So for me, I was just kind of sitting back, and there's like no rule book that you can follow that's going to be like, you know, unless you're like a devout Christian following the Bible, right? Like, and I grew up being raised, you know, like following the Bible. And so I went through this period where, and I have to stress, I started 2024 believing that evil still existed, believing that there was a dark energy, that there could possibly be dark entities, but I had never seen them, but I believed that they were there. I ended 2024 with no belief in my heart any longer that evil exists. And it's because the entire year of 2024, I dedicated every effort I could to understand more about like what religious beliefs I had, what what, because I was raised Jehovah's Witness, okay, and I was shunned by my family about 21 years, like when I was 21, and I had this huge spiritual awakening, and I've been a psychic medium my whole life, but like I just, you know, never really like owned that, you know, like really stepped out of it. And I had my coming out story of, you know, my myself, but then I had a whole nother coming out story as being a psychic and a medium. And it was very life-changing for me. But anyways, even despite doing this work, talking to dead people, you know, working with people, teaching people about spirituality in different ways, the most humbling part about this is I still don't know everything. And honestly, I would be more scared if there was somebody out there saying that they knew everything, because the point of our journey here on earth, and the most humbling part about all of this, is we are teachers, but number one, we are always going to be students first. Part of being a student means that you recognize that your whole journey and your whole alignment is living in this world where there is infinite wisdom, infinite knowledge that you can see. But with that said, you are finite, being in your human bodysuit. So your brain can only fathom a certain amount of understanding, a certain amount of infinite, right? So part of that experience is recognizing that. And I think that, you know, whole expression of it has been a challenge for me, you know, because like I really had to respect and understand that part of the process of my healing journey, is, you know, making sure that I'm checking in with myself, checking in with the parts of me that have fears or religious beliefs. And honestly speaking, starting 2024 with the belief that evil still existed, that was completely intertwined with the beliefs of the religion that I was raised in. And the reason being is that the more that I pushed forward and I started asking more and more questions, because I started going, okay, wait a second, you know, why am I hitting some spiritual roadblocks here? Like, these are some pretty significant roadblocks for me. You know, because I was getting asked some hard questions in sessions. Like, I did lots of mentorship and, you know, teaching, like classes and things like that. And I was getting asked some hard questions, and Spirit would give these responses. And I would sit back and I'm like, God, you know, Spirit, I don't know how you guys are so infinite. And my capacity of understanding is so limited. And they kept encouraging me to go deeper with my understanding, my spiritual studies and my understanding of what I define as like a rigid belief system. And so I kept going back to evil, and like how there's a right and a wrong and there's no evil. And if you notice, if any of you guys followed any of my lives, you know, last year, a lot of what I said at the beginning of 2024 was there is no right and wrong. Oh my God. Okay, I just like, you know, like I constantly said that over and over and over. I was like saying it so, but it was almost like I was trying to prove to myself some crazy ass shit, okay? Anyways, so a part of this was really coming to my own and understanding and respecting that, I had to understand some new things. And so part of this has been, like part of the Jehovah's Witness belief system is that you need to follow God's standards to the T. By that I mean Jehovah God's standards. You got to follow Jehovah God's standards to the T. And even then, your heart might not be in the right condition. And if your heart is not in the right condition, when Armageddon comes, you will cease to exist. You'll be taken out of the book of remembrance and you will cease to exist. You'll be destroyed at Armageddon. And that's what I was raised with. Like, I gotta stress to you guys, like, most people don't understand this concept. And I understand that everyone was raised differently, but if you've been raised at like Catholic or any religion at all, I need you to hear me for a second, okay? To like, from infancy, okay? Like, from the time that I like existed, okay? Like, my human form existed. It was made, at conception, and then it was like coming into this earth, right? Coming into through the womb, right? My parents worshiped Jehovah God. My parents' worshiped Jehovah God. My parents' worshiped Jehovah God. My parents' worshiped Jehovah. It's like 7, 8, 9 generations of people who worshiped the same religion no matter what, like dogmatically believing every doctrine possible, okay? So now, factor me this. Why? Why did I choose a family? And this is the stuff that I've asked a lot of questions about, okay? Why did I choose a family that specifically would have that many generations of dogmatic belief systems that's riddled in shame, mind you, and fear? Why would I choose that? Why would I choose a bodysuit with a mind that always thinks for itself? Cannot, like, for the love of motherfucking God, why would I choose that? Right? The same can be said for you. Why would you choose the bodysuit that you chose and to be raised by a family that might be dogmatic in their belief system? Think about that. Because, before coming to Earth, we choose what family we're going to be raised in. We even choose the culture that we're going to be brought up in and the environments that we'll be raised in. Meaning you're choosing the government system that you will be around. And by the time you become your adult life, you'll be conditioned to practice certain belief systems. Whether you acknowledge it or not, it will be ingrained inside of you. Kind of similar to how, there was some scientists that took fleas and they birthed them in this container upside down, and the fleas got conditioned for a period of time where they were only jumping in this small space, to the point where when they pulled the fucking glass bowl off, the fleas remained at the exact same shape of the bowl. And they refused to expand further or go outside their comfort zone. They stayed exactly the way that they needed to be. So, with that said, throughout your entire life, you are going to be rediscovering, coming to new understanding. You're going to be weeding out belief systems that once worked for you and then didn't work for you. So it would make sense between October of 2024 all the way up to January 2025 that you would be feeling the uncomfortability, both physically and mentally, of leaving behind old belief systems. So it only makes sense that that's the direction that you head in. So think about all that has led up to now. Not everyone is self-aware. Not everybody is constantly working on themselves. My entire life is spirituality. So every day, day in and day out, hour by hour, I'm doing something relating to spiritual work, because I live it, I breathe it. It is my work. It is my passion. I'm going to die doing this work. I won't stop. I'm in love with my work, and I'm constantly humbled by the fact that I don't know everything that there is to know, and yet I still feel drawn to continue to share and do all of this work. But between October and January, I shared less because I really needed to do a lot of internal work. A lot of internal work about, like, what do I really believe in? What made me start doing this, right? And so there's times where you have to break, where you have to really own that, and you got to step back for a minute and really examine, what did you believe and why did you believe that, and what's shifting now that's making you step forward. And not all of it needs an explanation. So there's a lot of times that you feel things. Hi guys. There's a lot of times that you feel things that you don't have a full understanding about it, right? Like, you're going to have emotions that come up, and you may not understand those emotions at all, and that's completely okay. Shane, I'm happy to have you here. We're a fun, loving spiritual group that talks all about everything, and it's mom. And I'm recovering from walking pneumonia, so I'm a little bit down and out. I'm also on TikTok. But anyways, would love to have you, love to hang out with you and talk a little bit. Right now I'm kind of on a little bit of a spiritual talk, just kind of explaining the collective energy that's been happening. Thank you. I am feeling a little bit better. But there's been a lot of collective shifts that have happened since October to January. So it's really important for you guys to remember, going back on the topic that I was addressing, it's important for you guys to remember that not all your emotions need an explanation. And in fact, the more that you try to explain how you're feeling about topics, the more that it actually is almost, in a way, you trying to bypass or avoid some of the feelings that you have. I had a client recently, we were sitting in the call. First off, her and I, every time, without fail, every time she comes in and sits down for a session, she and I get on a pretty heavy political conversation. I was going to say politics, and then I decided political would be a better word. It's a political conversation about, right and wrong, and who should be in office and who shouldn't be in office. And I love those types of conversations because it always, without fail, brings up past life energy relating to slaves and masters, and in time periods where there was persecution about our bodies and things. It's just so fucking, I'm already smirking as I'm talking about it because it just gets so exciting every single time. Okay, like I get so excited about this shit. Like, literally the stuff that's politically going on, yes, it's fucking awful and it's scary, and I understand that. But I was just in a workshop back in November, and I was talking with a social worker there, and she said, I am just so scared. And I'm like, this is the time to get excited. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, this is the time to get, like, really excited, because this is where, change can happen. And she's like, no, we need to make changes. And I said, well, what do you think? That changes just miraculously fucking happen? Like, you just turn the switch and we just all of a sudden start, like, magically changing? Like, no, like, there's an upheaval that happens. This is why when people are going through, like, karmic cycles, like 12-year, 13, 14-year karmic cycles that are coming to an end, I am, like, telling them, please slow down. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because this is the time period where you're more likely to start a new karmic cycle that's unhealthy. Like, say you went through a DUI, right? And and just even like in the state that I was living in at the time, I believe it takes a total of like 12 years to get all the way through all the legalities that happens as a result of that, right? And that in of itself could be considered a karmic cycle. And some people hear karmic and they're like, oh, no, I don't want that. But we're always in karmic cycles. Karmic cycles are lessons, right? You're always in a lesson of cycles. And there's always opportunities to learn and grow and achieve more. And at any given moment, you're living out the result of how you reacted to your past karma. And I'm just laughing because I'm just like, it's really fucking important to slow down a little bit, really feel into your body, really feel into what you believe in, what you're understanding about that, and really examine the components of it. So I was in the session with this client. Sorry, I digressed for a second. I was in the session with this client, and we're talking about the politics that are going on currently. And and she was devastated. So I had her feel into her body, and there's this quantum technique that I do to kind of push someone into a past life. And I'm sitting there, and she starts seeing enslavement. She's seeing herself as the slave, and there's a master cowering, like she's cowering, beneath the master, and that master's dominating her. And she's really getting into the story, and I like pause her like mid conversation. I'm like, just stop for a second. I said, I want you to put a pin in the experience of being the slave. She's like, I don't understand what you mean. I said, I want you to put a pin in this. Because again, guys, anytime I'm told to do things a certain way, like if I've trained to do like past life regression and, quantum healing and things like that, I just combine all of it. Like, because I feel like the more that we combine, the better. Anyways, so I was like, let's put a pin in this. And like, we're not going to do like a normal past life regression. Because like, what would be the point of you only experiencing being the slave in this instance? And in fact, the more that you are in that energy of being the slave, the more that you feel powerless, helpless, and hopeless. And so I was like, put a pin in it, and I want you to feel into that master. Oh, I can't feel into the master. And I said, no, you fucking do need to feel into the master, because there's a part of you within that energy. And I want you to find on your body, where in your body do you have a cord that's attached to the master? And she sat back, she's crying, and she's so resistant. And then finally she's like, okay, I see myself here. I like the cruelty that this master is showing. And so she started kind of unraveling what she saw herself in as the master. And the reason that I had her do that exercise before having her feel into what that past life was really all about was because, number one, I wanted her to feel the power that that person had and the cruelty that they displayed as a result of that power, right? But then I also wanted her to feel the feelings of powerlessness that she's then channeling into this lifetime in the experience of looking at the government system. And that is unfortunately a lot of what people feel when they see the things that are going on. And I cannot stress enough, guys, every single thing in this world, you are a celestial light being. Being a celestial light being is the embodiment of neutrality. And part of neutrality, it has no polarity. There is no like attachment to emotions. There's no right and wrong with it. It's this neutral flow of energy. It is love. It is the embodiment of love. And it is divine. There is a purity to that essence. That is you. And you are in this finite bodysuit. So you're literally this limitless being for a period of time. And you experience the limits and confines of time, the limits and confines of being human, right? And it's meant to bring you to an awareness of love. And if you focus so much on the limits, well, then what you're saying is that you're feeling your finiteness. You're feeling what the essence of being human is really all about. And so in a way, since October of 2024 to January of 2025, what you're telling me by all of the pain that you've been through, all of the heavy emotions you've experienced and things of that nature, what you're telling me is that you have felt your finiteness. You have felt what it feels like to be human. And that's beautiful, because that's the point, isn't it? Like, you came to Earth to have your humanness, to experience humanness. And it's not always about like just being so evolved that you can somehow like snap your fingers and you're not attached to anything. But like feeling that finiteness, that's beautiful and all. But to sit in that, well, that's not going to take you anywhere. So finding the love, though, in all the things that are around you, that's what is ultimately going to bring you into more infinity, more eternal understanding. Because really, honestly, that's the way to connect to your soul. And so with that said, I guess where I was going with talking about this particular client, I just found it to be so fascinating because she sat back and she's such an analyzer. She wants to understand, why did she feel this way? What came of this? And how can she shift that so that she can shift into a better understanding and grow from it? And she feels that that is how she's going to heal. And it's so funny because I see so much of myself in that. You know, like I've spent so much of my time in my life focused on like why do I feel this? What is this? What does this mean? So that I could like somehow understand it. And if I could just understand it enough, then I would somehow heal it and be able to move forward. Well, through my spiritual journey and the studies that I've done over the years, I've found that it's not always about knowing or analyzing the why, right? Or the how. It's about letting it evolve into what it needs to be. So if there's emotions coming up, can you just feel them? Can you just feel where it is in your body? And I mean like truly feel it. Be present in your body. Commit to being present in your body. Commit to stepping in your body and remaining wherever your feet go, you are with your body, right? And really remain in your body when you're feeling that humanness, because that in of itself will teach you far more than any book could teach you, far more than any healing modality or holistic technique could help you. But really, truly committing to be in your body. And so that's what I'm saying about this experience right now. Yeah, you feel lost. Yeah, you feel confused. Yeah, you're feeling some heavy shit, right? But you're not alone in that. There's a collective of people. There's 66 people on TikTok and 11 people here on YouTube. At least the 66 that are in the actual live. It's important to remember that every single one of you guys have been commenting and feeling the expression of what it really means to be human and how you're feeling collectively about that. It's important to remember that you're not alone in any of this, that this is an experience here, and that no matter where you are in the world, it doesn't matter if you're right here or if you're like 10 states away from, you know, California, or if you're like across the fucking world. The emotional states are similar. The collective experience is similar. And I want to encourage each of you guys to really feel into why you're here, what you're doing, and really just go with the flow. When you're feeling that lost feeling, lean into it. Lean into it because it's going to reveal something to you about the next part of your journey. But if I'm being honest, if I could really express to you guys, this only happens when I'm getting spirit. Woo! Okay. So, a thing that I want to bring out to you guys is that, what am I saying? I can't remember. I need to drink some water too. What was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. Yeah, we're going to stop for there. We're just going to stop for a second. I'm going to drink water. Thank you, Angel. You're talking about being lost. Okay. I apologize, guys. I am sick, and I am sure my lips are chapped. Okay. Okay, so we're talking about being lost. So a way that, you know, I'm going to just explain parts of the spiritual journey. There's something lonely about spiritual work, right? You know, because like you go in this world and like you, from birth up until however long it takes you to wake up, right? You are like kind of like a slave to the development behaviors that started from your childhood, right? You were surrounded by dysregulated adults. And, you know, if you were lucky, you had good parents who were loving and compassionate to you. But most of the population, and especially spiritual people who are like called into doing some of this work, right? Most people who are called in to do spiritual work usually have had a rough life. And I'll be the first to tell you, by the time I hit 30, I had 11 major traumatic events that happened in my life. And I'm still working on a book on that. And honestly, it doesn't fucking matter how many fucking traumatic events you've had. You could have one major traumatic event and still understand the emotional issues that come with it, right? But 11 major traumatic events, and it kind of just, it's almost like catapulting me to the calling that I felt called in. Even though I felt that calling, doesn't mean I magically just know what that looks like, right? As I've progressed forward, right? So it's like setting out on this like ship, right? And you have all the resources you need, and you are so dedicated to this. You're like, man, I got the best shit ever. And my ship is the coolest ship ever. And like, you're like setting out at sea, and you're like, this is going to be a long, amazing journey. And you're aware there's going to be some fucked up shit that happens, and you're going to feel crazy in the process. You're not going to know where you're not going to understand your feet from your head. Sometimes you're going to be lost. You're going to be conflicted. But for the most part, you're feeling like it's going to be fine. It's going to be great. Well, what happens is you get through a few storms, and at first you're like, whoo, I got my bearings. I'm feeling good, right? And then over time, you hit a couple more storms. And some of the people on your crew that you started out with, well, they don't want to be around you anymore. So they set sail on different ships, and they betray you in different ways. And you feel like, what the fuck, you know? And so that happens. You lose resources as a result. Maybe some of it was stolen from you. Your boat almost capsizes. And before long, you found yourself out in the middle of fucking nowhere in the sea. And for some reason, now you thought you knew where you were going, and now you have no sense of direction at all. You don't know south from north to east to west. And you're out there at sea with limited resources, limited people in your ship. And you are starting to feel sorry for yourself. Starting to feel a bit helpless, a bit powerless in that experience, right? That happens to all of us. In fact, being human, that's part of the experience. I don't know anyone that hasn't had this part of the experience, and that's why I'm stressing to you guys such a need to allow yourself to feel the feelings that you have and really examine what aligns with you, what makes sense to you, and really focus on like not so much of what you think you should be at, but instead where you are. And that's where that radical acceptance comes in. That's where really finding your sense of self in that, and being comfortable with being uncomfortable sets in, because you can start to accomplish a lot. So maybe you're at sea and you feel like you're adrift, or you're kind of stuck, right? Like you're stuck and you don't know where to go. Well, there's going to be other ships that pass by at one point. And maybe some of those ships are friendly. Maybe some of those ships will lend you a hand, will lend you some of their resources, and in fact tell you which direction they're going in. And that's what causes the shift. That's what causes the understanding. So where I'm going with this is, don't allow your trauma story, your experiences here, and your emotions to separate you from the collective of people that can understand you. And that's a really vital part of your experience. And I think that's the thing that I think for like probably a little bit of between October to January, I feel like maybe I've had a little bit of holding myself back a little bit from sharing more with the community, because I just wanted to like really make sure I understood some key components of my life and how it matched the energy. And as you guys know, I have 2 podcasts that are active. I have that Past Life Girl, and I also have another podcast that I actually renamed. I'm calling it the Metaphysical Files. I butchered that name. Metaphysical Files. Yeah. Anyways, and the Metaphysical Files is referencing, basically we're, I'm reading the trauma and the energy of serial killers. And the reason being is because, number one, I started the whole process of that because I was just like, I need to understand, like, like, I truly believe there's no evil in this world. And so, like, then I've embarked on the mission of, okay, is that really true? Is that really the reality? Is that like, or is that just like too far-fetched? Is that like a hopeless thought? What the fuck is that? So I've explored that, and I gotta be honest, all the energies I've channeled so far, in that serial killers, like, a list that I have, not one of them are truly evil. And this is why I believe that the word evil was actually a construct of religious beliefs. I truly believe that 1000%. Because anytime I channel anyone from like the 1800s or back further, when they reference evil, they're referencing it in the sense of unknown. If it's unknown, if they don't understand it, they reference it as evil. So then I look at today's society, and could we be possibly could we, in fact, you know, as a society, be referencing the topics or the things that we don't understand as actually evil, instead of actually wanting to go deeper and dive into an understanding of it? Like, think about it, like the horrific, heinous acts that you see a person do. You can't fathom it, right? It doesn't make sense. Yet, in other lifetimes, you've done something similar. We've all done something similar. But in this lifetime, in this bodysuit, in this mind that you have, in the experiences that you've experienced up until now, you have the capacity of understanding that you would never in a fucking million years ever want to do something like that. So, for me, what I'm trying to get at here is, like, could evil just be a construct that you have ingrained inside of you to believe? And I'm not just talking about like you, like, in this experience right now, but you chose a bodysuit that has lineage attached to it, that has ancestral DNA attached to it, that's carrying loads of ancestral trauma, not to mention past life trauma that you've had. Baby, could this just be a part of your experience where, like, you need to, like, it's a challenge for you to look beyond these, like, physical manifestations of what you identify as evil and find the love in between it? Because I don't know about you, but, like, oh my good Lord, there is so much to be gleaned from all of that. And so I did a deep dive on serial killers, because what the fuck could go wrong? And I have channeled some serial killers. And I had some mediums come into my DMs, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? The fuck? And I'm like, have you not done it? Because, like, I think you should. What, you scared? You need some sage? Sorry, it's not funny. Like, it's kind of funny, though, but, like, I'm only laughing because at one time I was scared, okay? Like, but I just, like, you know, like, I am not the type of medium that could be caught dead connected in, like, a group of mediums, because, like, I would just rip people apart left and right. I, like, my Libra ass would have not, like, I could not. I would be like, you scared? You need some sage? Why you don't want to talk to Ted Bundy? What you think's gonna happen to you? Like, I want to, I asked Spirit what would be a good topic for me. I just asked this the other night, guys, and this is, like, I can't help myself. I asked Spirit the other night, like, what would be the best topic or book for me to read, so that I have the most powerful transformation? Spirit said Son of Sam. And I was like, what? And they said, and now that we've said Son of Sam, what emotions arise when we say Son of Sam? And I don't know if you guys have followed anything about, like, Son of Sam, which, by the way, he's on my list of, like, serial killers that I want to, like, kind of unravel and stuff like that. But I looked into Son of Sam, which I believe is Berkowitz or whatever. I looked into a little bit of his life because I believe I'm going to have an episode on him. Not so we're about to do Jeffrey Dahmer, and I have Berkowitz next, Son of Sam. And oh my God, I was like sitting back and I read something about Berkowitz, and I like it was like he like claimed, I believe, that a demon spoke to him and compelled him to act and behave in the ways that he did. And then later on he said it was a hoax. And then he said something else, and then he joined like the Satanic Temple and everything like that, which, by the way, I've done so much work on the Satanic Temple. Like, I have had literal clients come to me after joining the Satanic Temple, and they've needed help working through like so much fucking fear and emotional issues and energetic shit that happened to them. But Berkowitz, I think, why my spirit guides brought up Berkowitz was more because there's something to do for me involving like insanity, because there's been this part of me that's been afraid of channeling certain energy or going too deep into something that it could make me crazy. And I have literally, I shit you not, I have past lives that I've done work on that have involved me like losing my mind. And so like in this lifetime, and it makes so much sense because in this lifetime, like I have spent most of my life trying to ensure that I'm not like my mother. Like, and trying to work tirelessly on any mental health issues that I have, trying to like really make sure I understand reality, and I understand what is my own eternal not eternal internal right and wrong, what's my moral compass say, and really trying to make sure that I own parts of me that are shadows, right? And my mother, she wasn't, she was clinically diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, and also like a string of other disorders. And so later on in my life, my adult life, I've been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. And so that has been my biggest feat, because part of that is, wanting love but rejecting love at the same time. Wanting love but getting so involved in my own abandonment perspectives and stories that I've made up about the people, places, and things around me, so that it could somehow justify my reason for leaving. And I think most people spend so much time focused on like what's wrong with them, that they forget that they actually are not that messed up. And I think that's what's driven me into this work so much, because I have never, nothing has impacted me as much as spiritual work, holistic healing, and all the different modalities that I'm certified in. Nothing has changed my life more than doing this work, really. And that's why I don't shy away from clients that have all kinds of different disorders. I have clients who have schizophrenia, clients that have borderline, clients that have DID, OCD, and all kinds of just, autism, things of that nature. And I work tirelessly on different holistic strategies that will help them, feel more empowered as they're navigating the world. And I know with borderline, a lot of people have a misconception about what borderline really is, but really, people with borderline are good storytellers, and they have a huge heart, and a capacity of love, and a sensitivity, that not very many people understand. But part of that, too, is recognizing that sometimes the stories that you form with borderline are not literally the reality, not all the time. And so I think also another part of that is recognizing what environments you are in. And I would say I'm in the safest relationship I've ever been in, where, I can go to my partner and say, hey, I have this story coming up right now. And, and I'll tell her like what that story looks like, right? I'll be like, well, this is what came up. you know, and it was because she gave me this look, you know, like the other day, and she'll be like, when did I give you a look? And I'll like tell her like when she gave me a look, and I took that look personal. And instead of me stopping for a moment and, you know, addressing the look and seeing what was going on, I took that inward, and it became my problem that I then created a whole story on. And and it's fascinating because the more that I communicate what story I'm telling, the more that I can like really understand where I am getting, you know, some, I don't want to say like the story wrong, but like where my perspective is taking it out of proportion. And when I was younger with borderline, I would impulsively react instantly. You fuck with me, I'm leaving. I'll show you. I'm done. And I gotta be honest with you guys, like, it doesn't help anything. Like, like, who the fuck are you? Like, what are you trying to fucking prove by leaving, right? And you know, I tried medication in the past and things like that, and for me, medication did not work. Only because, like, you know, doing the work that I do, I am a psychic medium. I read trauma for a living. I read people's emotional states and things like that. Like, I'm the person that people talk to when they are thinking about unaliving. I'm the person that people go to when they're having relationship conflicts or emotional hangups and they don't understand it. There are people in the spiritual community who have been in the community 30 plus years and call me up because they need a perspective on trauma. And because of being like this, because I'm able to use my mind and use the emotional capacity that I have, that I do feel like is intertwined with this disorder, it allows me an expansion that I would never have had had I like closed it down or locked it up or put it in somewhere and said it was crazy or whatever. But I also have to recognize where there's a shadow part of it. And part of that is my relationships. When people get close to me, there's fears that come up. And if I don't identify those fears or I don't communicate that, I'm not going to feel more safe to do that. And in fact, I'll push it away more. And that other person that's attracted in too, they're going to go through a whole experience of having, you know, like being with a borderline, you know, being with somebody who has borderline personality disorder. Because it's moody and it's all over the place, right? And so it takes a really emotionally evolved and stable person to be able to work with somebody like that, right? So that's where, you know, I'm grateful for the environment that I'm in. And I highly recommend if you have borderline or if you're struggling in those areas, I want you to remember that you are not the disorder that you have. Your mind does beautiful things to help you survive, right? And in borderline, it's not a death sentence. You know, the same thing with bipolar disorder. It's not a death sentence. You have plenty of tools and holistic opportunities to stabilize your energy. Part of it is going with the flow. People who have bipolar disorder benefit from breath work. If you've ever heard of breath work, I'm not talking about like vitality breath work. I'm talking more about like integral breath work where you're actually like getting a corrective experience and maintaining a strict, you know, regimen of like a routine that you stay on, that helps create stability and structure for you in ways that will absolutely help, in a lot of ways. Another thing that I want to stress is, you know, people who have certain disorders have to take medication versus other people that are in different situations. So with me, at least I've talked to a lot of different licensed psychologists. I'm grateful. I've talked to a lot of licensed psychologists about me talking to dead people too, which they think is incredible. Like, thank God. Because that was like my biggest fear. Like, you know, I heard in the spiritual community, oh, don't ever tell a psychologist that you talk to dead people. And I was like, oh my God, you know, like, but I've gotten, you know, examined for, you know, any other mental health disorders and I've gotten cleared. So my biggest thing is humans. You know, like the whole thing about like, would you choose a bear or a man in the forest? Well, you know, mine is like, would you choose a woman or a bear in the forest? And because I mentally have been traumatized by women, I would say I'd choose the bear. Like, It's just, you know, it's a terrible joke, but like, you know, it's reality. We all live in that. Okay. But like the reality is, for me, humans have been the most traumatizing. You know, like the experience that I've had, my little child inside of me has struggled to make sense of it, right? But I think the biggest thing with people with borderline is that you have to come to the realization that it's not personal. And I mean that both logically, spiritually, and mentally. You have to literally come to this full-on realization it's just not personal. And the same thing with like, because, you know, not every reaction that somebody is giving you means that they don't approve of you. Not every action that somebody takes is against you. And even if it was against you, is it really? Is it really? And you can go in remission. However, some people think that they can like magically like, you know, I don't know, over time, just overcome it. And I want to stress to you that it's an awareness that you have to come to. And that takes time. And I mean that when I say it takes time, and it's in what you do in that time that can completely shift, completely change the way that you see relationships. And part of it is stabilizing yourself and helping yourself feel more structured and stable with or without a person. And I think that's a really key thing to respect and understand. And I think it's scary as fuck. But that's where, like, you know, holistic wellness can be very helpful. Different spiritual techniques. Like, honestly, if you have a disorder, go get Reiki certified. I'm not kidding. Reiki is like the Starbucks of the spiritual community. Everybody has a fucking Reiki master certification, right? But I'm not kidding. Go get Reiki certified. The reason I'm saying that is because it gives you like a little bit of a foundation of understanding about energy. And it will spark up new excitement and new possibilities for the energy world for you, which then can empower you with dealing with your own mental health issues. And that's the point. Same thing goes for like, you know, doing like quantum healing even. Quantum healing is like combining tons of, like, it's an umbrella term, combining like psychology, spirituality, and psychic work and mediumship and like everything in between that. It's combining all of that together to provide healing, and it's using your own personal vortex to do that, right? So, you know, all these things can be very empowering for mental health. You know, and something that I want to stress to you guys, there is a level of like paranoia that you get with like something like borderline. And I think there's this need to really make sure that you feel safe. Like, I can't tell you how many times a day over the years I have said, I am safe, I am safe, I am safe. Like, that's my affirmation, is I am safe. Because if I can like really work on making myself feel safe, like making sure my environment is safe and my body is safe, my mind is safe, it literally breeds this opportunity for me to do so much healing work. And the more that safer that because like, think about it, if you feel safe, then you're not hyper fixated on what your partner's doing or what they're not doing, right? If you feel safe, you're not fixated on what the next thing is going to do. You're just like here, present. And what I have found is that like there's this like holistic technique called the split exercise. Fucking love that, by the way, because borderline people think in polarity. Like, they are like the kings and queens of thinking in polarity. Like, everything is like you know, rigid. It's a black and a white. It's like a yin and a yang. It's a very abstract. I have not met one person who has borderline that doesn't at least have some sort of autistic type traits, because they're so sensitive. Like, it's just incredible how sensitive. But if you can channel that energy into doing work that's healthy for you, like channel it into like hobbies and into, you know, creating something, oh my God. Oh my good Lord. Like, oh, so fucking beautiful. Okay, sorry, just that was a side note, but it's freaking beautiful. Gypsy Witch said, appreciate your words. I have borderline and tend to avoid any relationships, like friends and partners out of fear of, I think. So, you know, a lot of times, cause you know, I bet Gypsy, you avoiding, friends and partners, helps you kind of feel more stable and safe and secure. And then I bet that even, you know, like if we're going a little bit deeper with that, you know, that very essence of that would send you into remission because you don't have any like triggers necessarily that could like send you into a tailspin. It would make sense that you would want to avoid that. However, part of the human experience here on earth is to connect with people, places, and things. That's how you change your perspective. That's how you grow and you learn. So what if, you know, for 2025, maybe you focused on like manifesting so new kinds of connections in your life. Not to where it would take over anything, but you know, the point is to kind of grow, right? Some of it's uncomfortable, but if you manifest the right types of people, like, you know, people who can, you know, communicate with you effectively, you know, I have, oh my God, I have one of my best friends in the whole entire world. I told her straight up, you know, first off, I always have, friends and, you know, partners that are always older than me, like significantly older than me. And I think that has to do with just me resonating with a later generation, not necessarily my own generation. However, with that said, doesn't mean that the maturity level is there, right? So I have a best friend who, I told her that I have borderline, you know, and I said, you know, right from the get-go, I'm like, you know, I have a tough time with relationships. And I explained that, you know, I get in my head and I make these stories that sometimes are real, but then sometimes are, you know, exaggerated, and I tend to overreact, and here's what that looks like. And I explained that, and I said, and I struggle with boundary issues and things of that nature, and I'm trying to work on this and blah, blah, blah. She went out of her way to study everything that she could get her hands on about borderline. And she has been one of my longest lasting friendships. And because people who have borderline have friendships that last less than 2 years. They can't keep friends. They can't keep relationships because they constantly, like, they're hurricanes. You know, she's been long-lasting friendship, and she has set the most boundaries. And I have learned so much from that person. Sometimes we talk you know, like every day, or sometimes we go several weeks without talking, even a month or two without talking, and then we start talking again. And she has taught me the most non-verbally that anyone has ever taught me. And it's because, you know, she has been able to maintain the distance needed so that I have time to grow and heal. And then also keep this, like, you know, this balance of, like, boundaries that need to be established, and then, you know, conversations that need to be had when it's needed, you know. And she's given me the distance that I need to have, like, freakouts or have moments where I'm like, what the fuck, you know, and, like, come back to it and, like, understand, you know, oh wow, this was, like, you know, this or that, you know. And through that I have learned not to, I don't need to say everything that comes up for me. So there's a lot of times that I might feel an emotional response, right? Or I might be feeling a story coming up, but instead of me immediately saying that story that's coming up, I'm pausing. I'll pause, and you know, I will take a step back. I'll take some alone time and really reflect on what that story looks like, and where that, like, if I'm feeling hurt, where am I feeling that in my body, and how can I really, like, regulate and kind of come to terms with that. And what I have found through that is that that little bit of space that I needed teaches me how much of projections I do on a regular basis. I'm not fucking kidding. So then I discovered this chair technique. It's a holistic technique. So there's a split technique that helps with polarity, right? So like when you are like, okay, so like just if you don't have borderline, it's okay. So like say that you can't decide if you want to stay in a relationship or you want to leave a relationship, which is like 90% of the population, right? But people with borderline struggle with it the most. And I don't know about you, but I stayed in a relationship recently, like in the last like year, like all of 2024. I stayed with somebody who I knew was not good for me, but I stayed anyways because I was just like, maybe my borderline is making me feel this way, right? I don't know if you can relate, but we all have those moments. But I was in like this horrible period of doubt about like, should I stay or should I go? Should I stay or should I go? Well, I learned this technique where you basically bring into balance physically and energetically staying and leaving. And so anyways, I learned this technique, did it, and now I do it for all my clients, and they fall in love with it every time I do it. Like, they're like, holy fuck, I never realized I could do something like that with my body. And like, it gives me an immediate relief, and I feel like I can like figure out what my next steps are, what my next direction is. And so, you know, I love that for them. But the split technique is amazing for people who have borderline because you have to recognize that you have two polarities here. And when we're in that kind of like the love and the hate of something, we got to bring it into a balance, you know, because it's beautiful. I find myself saying a lot, especially if I'm triggered or anything like that. I will literally say to myself, I love my mind. I love my mind. My mind is so beautiful. Look at this mind. This mind has this capacity to see both the light and the dark and everything, to like see everything in this way. And I'm not kidding, guys. Being kind to your mind like that, regardless of what your fucking mental illnesses are, like, we all need to start doing that. That needs to become a ridiculous practice that we do all the fucking time. Like, I'm not kidding. Because even just talking kinder to yourself and saying things like, oh my God, I'm aware of this. Or even like coming to the awareness. Like, I had a client the other day. She has a lot of negative self-talk. And she said, Brittany, I was really good. I immediately, as soon as I heard myself saying that, I said, this is bad. I have to stop thinking this way. And I was like, so you're like scolding yourself? And she's like, yeah, I'm scolding myself. And I'm like, okay, can we pause this for a moment? And instead of scolding ourselves more, when you have this thought come up and you recognize that you're like, you're observing your thought, right? You're seeing that you're talking negative to yourself. And she's like, yeah. I said, in that moment, can you give yourself a celebration? And she's like, what do you mean celebrate? I mean, I'm like, literally, celebrate. Celebrate the success of you recognizing that you have this negative thought coming up. And I was like, can you think about like how wonderful that would be on a daily basis if instead of you scolding yourself for having a negative thought, instead you were celebrating the fact that you recognize the negative thought? How much that would shift your entire personality. I gotta be honest with you, the work that I've done on myself, literally in moments, I would sit back and I would go, oh my gosh, I can see myself having this thought. I realize that it's not warranted. I realize that it's not, like, it's such an exaggeration from the reality that it's in front of me. And I can either sit in that and be angry at myself and, like, make fun of myself for it. Not referencing self-deprecating humor. I am focused on talking about, like, which it sounds like you are working on letting go of self-deprecating humor, because it's almost like a gaslighting that you're, like a self-gaslighting that you start doing to yourself. I'm talking about like really celebrating when you recognize, ooh, I shouldn't have said that to myself. And that moment when you realize that, oh my God, that gives you a lot of grace. Somebody asked what that split technique was. It is literally called the split exercise. It's a holistic wellness exercise where you take in one hand the energy that it feels like, and there's like a whole procedure to it. Like I do this with clients regularly, like where I have them, close their eyes, and in their first, the first polarity that they have, like say someone's in front of me who's struggling with whether or not they should leave a relationship. Now psychically, I will tell them, like I've sat with people who, like, I remember a client who came to me and she was cheating on her husband. She sits down and I'm reading her energy, and like I tell a story. I say this all the time to people about like, like 'cause people ask me what it's like being a medium or whatever. And I'll say, oh, like I had this one time where a grandma came in and she like, told on her granddaughter for cheating on her husband. And but there's been countless times after that where I'll sit with a client and I'll just be looking at them, energetically connecting to what they're seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, tasting, and knowing. And I like to be inside like that energy. Like I want to feel what it's like to be the person in front of me. Empathetically, it's life changing, because when you can recognize what it's like to step in somebody else's shoes, it changes your entire fucking perspective on life itself. But that aside, it's not even about you. Like I've seen so much of people when I do that kind of work, because like I've been able to validate people who who have thoughts and feelings that they've never shared with the world. And then also I've been able to see things that can't really explain other than just seeing it, like firsthand in a session. And so sitting with a client once who actually was cheating on her husband, and I looked at her and like I had this deep sense of knowing that she was romantically involved with a partner and that she had a secondary partner. And so I looked at her and I said, I described what I was seeing, how it was showing up, and what spirit said, and she just drops her head down. And I said, I have like this unfathomable guilt. I can't speak now. Unfathomable guilt. And I said, with this kind of guilt, I'm like, it kind of springs me to talk to you about cheating and infidelity. And she looks down and she's like, I've been cheating on my husband for this many months, and I don't know if I'm ever going to change it. And I don't know what to do. And I was afraid to do this session with you because I was afraid this would come out. Now that it's here and out, I don't know which direction to move in. And now that we're on the topic, should I stay or should I go? And I literally like remember looking at her, and we ended up doing the split exercise where she like literally took both polarities and brought them together and came to an awareness of what she wanted. She ultimately decided she wanted to stay with her husband. But before she did that, I also psychically read, because I was like, I'm assuming now that you're bringing up this topic and now that I've naturally like read into this, that you probably want to know what would happen if you left. And she looked at me and she's like, yes, I would like to know. And I said, okay, so you'd like to know what would happen if you if you left, and then also if you stayed. And she said yes. And so I ended up doing like a whole reading based on that person versus that person, and energetically what their aura layers were saying, what the trauma was saying, what their emotional capacities were, and based on that, what the trajectory of the energy showed for what it would look like in whatever timeline she chose. And in the end, what I thought was so interesting was when we did the split exercise, there was this sense of calm that came over her energy that I can't even begin to explain. It's almost like total release of guilt. And at that point, it was more like I can just accept being here right now, and like not like it doesn't have to have like a like a right or a wrong, that this was just a part of my story. And I feel like that's what the split exercise is so beautiful for, because it takes you out of that right and wrong and allows you to just have the experience of being what it is. Because honestly speaking, I think the world would be a better place if we didn't look at each other from the judgment of right and wrong, because our behaviors are just reflections of trauma that we've experienced. and not all of us have the capacity to change and shift that. And it's beautiful. And no, I'm purposely not explaining how it works exactly, just because I don't want anyone to do that outside of like a session where it's like a trained professional. Just because I already talk a lot about techniques, especially quantum healing techniques, and I get a lot of DMs from clients who start dabbling or opening up something because of a technique I was explaining in a live stream. So I'm just a little bit more cautious about that, because I worry a lot about people's mental health and emotional stability. And I want to make sure that and I don't want to say that there's a right and a wrong way to do it. It's just and that's why I do sessions through video call only, because then I can see you, right? So whatever comes up in that session, I can navigate that with you, and I can help you kind of unravel whatever comes up, and everything is spirit led. And I have these wonderful dead psychologists that come in that will drop these huge truth bombs of stuff that is just explosions of information. And it's beautiful, but it's also there's such a need to make sure it's in the right setting. So I never leave a session without making sure that person feels lighter and more stabilized and grounded. And so whatever comes up in that time that we're working together, there's usually some trauma that'll come up, and we'll do some trauma healing techniques and things like that, such as the split exercise, so that you can have new awareness and new shifts, and be able to grow and step forward in the direction that feels right and inspires you. So that's why I don't share it that much, and I do apologize, because I know it's tell me what to do, how to do it, and yeah, so but if you are looking to change or shift, maybe you have some difficult thinking that's going on, or obsessive compulsive thinking. I call it ruminating thinking, because it's rumination that's happening where you're obsessively thinking about something. There is a technique that would be very helpful for you. Write your name in the right corner of a piece of paper, and write it normal, right? And then with the same hand next to where you wrote it normal, write it backwards. Write your name backwards. I'm not kidding. That will literally shut off parts of you that are overthinking in an area. It will literally cause it to smack down, shift it. And also, I got to stress this, guys. We are in a new level of consciousness, a new level of awareness, okay? So people who say that they're empathic, right? There's no such thing as too much. I worked with this client for oh my God, 6 months. And she went from almost being agoraphobic to leading ceremonies and being in front of people and going to large events and things like that. And she, from the day one, she said, Brittany, I'm an empath, and I just feel things so much, and it's so overwhelming that I can't deal with it. And I'm like, why haven't you set collective boundaries? And she looks at me and she's like, what are you saying? And I was like, I'm not kidding. What you're telling me is that you do not have an understanding or capacity about boundaries. And I'm like, and that's going to be the biggest thing that we work on, hands down. So the first couple of months, all we worked on was collective boundaries, setting boundaries, basically energetically setting what that meant to set boundaries energetically, what it meant to set them mentally, what it means to actually speak out a boundary to loved ones around you. And then also when you're in a group or, in front of people. And no, I'm not talking about a bubble. That's a thing a lot of people talk about, is a bubble. Especially Reiki masters talk about bubbles. I'm not talking about the generic Starbucks techniques, honey bunches of oats. I'm talking about some different quantum techniques and literal like a literal understanding of what a boundary is, because a lot of this like is also a mental understanding. Like if you understand how energy works, then you will also understand how to set the boundary without even needing a visualization. Like that's literally, I'm not kidding. Like, and I spent, I think it's so funny because like I used to get so angry because like I was like studying from this mentor and she's like, what the fuck are you doing, Brittany, a bubble? And I was like, don't you hate on my fucking bubble, Tina. Anyways, because her name was Tina, but yeah, like she pissed me off so fucking much because she would challenge everything. Same thing with Chinese medicine mentor that I studied from. He would challenge literally everything that I would say. Like I would say, he's like, how do you set boundaries, Brittany? I said, I've just, I set, bubbles around me, and he would just fucking laugh at me, and he'd say, you gotta try harder than that. And he's like, does that bubble work for you when you go over here and do? I'm like, fuck you. We were getting little mini arguments because I would be like, you don't know. You don't know. And like, oh, it was such a love-hate relationship. Man. But anyways, learned a lot from that, okay? And I can tell you, and it's so funny because even those mentors I feel like they didn't tell me, like, they never told me exactly step by step how to set boundaries, okay? That shit pissed me off so much. Like, I worked with a mentor almost a year, and he never once said, this is how you set boundaries. No. It took a trauma coach one day. Her and I were exchanging services, and I just straight up said to her, I'm years into this fucking work. Years into this fucking work. What is boundaries? Nobody is giving me a normal human explanation of boundaries. And she explained it by explaining a road. And she's like, think of a road. And she's like, we all have our road, right? Like, and some of them are paved and not paved. And she's like, you get to decide, is your road paved or not paved? That is figurative. And she's like, and then you also get to decide whether or not you have lines in your road, whether or not you have like speed limits on your road. And she said, you don't get to sit by and control other people and tell them how to behave around you. You demonstrate to them and emit that energy out of what your road is like. And she said, you will immediately get rid of people who will never be able to fit your road. And she said, and you will immediately align yourself with people who understand your road without you needing to explain it. And she said, and then the people that come on your road who are disrespectful to your road, well, guess what? We just went up for maintenance. And I was like, huh? Yeah. So like, but then manifesting that into physical reality is a whole nother can of worms. So what I have discovered with working with my clients on boundaries, especially the client who had, who was an empath and went from, identifying herself as an empath, that is out of her vocabulary, by the way, because most people who say they're an empath are not actually an empath. You're talking about someone who's unhealed, someone who has trauma, and they're wearing their trauma on their sleeve. That's what that says. And I feel like that's unpopular opinion because you scroll through TikTok or different social media platforms and everybody everywhere is like, oh, I'm an empath this. Oh, I'm empathic and I feel this. And I'm just like, so what you're telling me is that you have a lot of trauma and you wear it on your sleeve like as if it's some sort of like label. And also, guys, you know what wearing trauma means, right? That you're gonna hurt me. Because if you're wearing your fucking trauma, that means that you is hurting. And you got some vendetta to prove. Prove me wrong. That's the truth. It's the reality. You're going to hurt other people, especially if you're wearing your trauma. You better knock that shit off. Better put that trauma down. You better stop talking that way. Just like, yeah. But I feel like that like changed my life when I recognized that was the reality. And I like like, I feel like people don't understand how much using that term, even like I was talking to a group of psychologists, which, mind you, I got invited to this workshop, and it was for only licensed psychologists or social workers. And I got invited to it, and I have no background in, being a licensed psychologist or, social worker of any kind, but because of my holistic training background and because of like what kind of clients I work with and my whole I have a name in the spiritual community, like the girl that takes the crazy away, and it's because I'm really good at my work. And so I got invited to go to this like workshop, and I was like, cool, this is awesome. I walk in there and those motherfuckers are talking mad shit about empaths, and I was just sitting there and I was just like I'm like, I want to like turn a social media mic on so that everyone could hear what the social workers and psychologists were saying, because they're like, and I even raised my hand because we were like in this group, and I'm like, I raised my hand because I couldn't help myself. I was just like, so, I feel that when people say that they identify as an empath, what they're saying is they're wearing their trauma on their sleeve, and they're unaware of how much that, like, it's literally a sucker punch pack of like literally, like it's an identity in of itself. And like the teacher's like, please do go on. And like I was talking about the clients that I have that identify with being an empath, how life-changing it is to sit with somebody who's that unaware. Like, they're so aware of their emotions, right? They're so aware of the sensitivity level. They're feeling so much vibe, but they're so unaware of how much that's trauma, that it's literally trauma. And they spend so much of their life identifying with it that they don't recognize that part of your experience here on earth is coming to a neutrality, which means you detach from emotion. You have to walk both the fine line of apathy and empathy. And there's a healthy understanding of empathy, and there's a healthy understanding of empathy that goes way too over. Okay. So anyway, so I was like explaining that, and like the social workers started laughing. And they're like, okay, so I'm a social worker. And they're like, I deal with people who say that they're empaths all the time. And then the psychologist was like, yeah, I deal with people who literally think they're like these, empaths. And they're like actually not very good with understanding their feelings. And they have like a heightened sense of understanding about their own self. But then they like lack total awareness. Like we were talking about, like, oh my God, there was so much. So much. And I feel like it just blew my mind at what information, like, it just, oh my God, it just blows my mind when I think about like how much information comes in when we are just like comparing experiences and things of that nature. And so that's why it's so important. Gypsy Witch said, damn girl, way to call us out. Hey, listen, you can either sit back in an awareness, of like, that you are an empath and you can wear your trauma on your sleeves. And you can tell me till you're blue in the face that you're not doing that that's not at all what you do, and that it's a gift. But everyone has empathy within them that they can tap into. So I challenge you to go deeper to understand why you feel feeling so deeply. And also, what is your attachment to them? Because the whole attachment of the alignment of being an empath indicates that you have an attachment to the feelings that you have. And it takes one to know one. Because, like, I've sat there and believed that for, like, the majority of the time. And I've been so overwhelmed with the collective experience. Oh, I'm just feeling their pain. Oh, I'm feeling so much emotion in the room. And it's like, no, like, at a certain point, there needs to be boundaries that are set. Because, like, I deserve to live my life. And you deserve to live your life, too. Why do you have to walk this earth avoiding certain people, places, and things because you're empathic? And I challenge you that because this universe is eternal, it's infinite, it's endless, it's boundless. And you are in this finite bodysuit. And the finite bodysuit is attached to an ego that is limited. It knows it has a limited amount of time on this earth. It understands the concept of time, which is limited. It has only a limited amount of time to gain information and knowledge, right? So it spends a large amount of time realistically jumping into an attachment of the way that it's showing up. So it's important for you to navigate what those feelings are, what that represents, so you can start to heal and grow in different capacities. And part of healing is identifying, with your feelings. And so, in fact, someone that says they're empathic isn't wrong entirely. They're identifying a portion, but they're putting too much heavy emphasis on a feeling that they have. And it's important to recognize that and recognize how to set the right healthy boundaries, where it's healthy. And I think most people in the spiritual community, they'll tell you to put a bubble up. In the bubble, what does a bubble do? Honestly, what does it do when you're still feeling how you feel? Because I don't know about you, but over the years, I've tried bubbles. I've tried bubbles and walked into crowds of people, and I can't fucking deal with it. It wasn't until I started dealing with my fear of being seen, being judged, being rejected, and being abandoned that I started seeing so much leeway, that I started really understanding more about shame being a large part of why I'm uncomfortable in public. And also too, factor me this, because I had this I had to turn something off on the live. Factor me this. I had a client come in once, and we were talking about, she was talking about being an empath, and she was so much attached to the story. I stopped her for a moment because she talked about going to this concert, and she's like, I just felt so much of the hate. And I was like, could it be possible that 3 hours before you went to this concert, or 10 days before, you had an event that triggered hate around you? So then you became ultra sensitive to hate, and then you went into this public place, and with the universal law of attraction, because likeness attracts likeness, you then identified with all the people that felt the hate. And she got really quiet because she got so fucking angry. By the way, thank you for the 100,000 likes, guys. I really appreciate you guys. She got really angry. She's like, well, you mean to tell me that I'm not feeling the collective? And I'm like, no, I do believe that you were feeling the collective, but why is it that you walk into a place and all you're feeling is the negative side of everything? And she got really quiet. And I sat back and I thought about that, because, we attract in what we focus on, right? But at the same time, you already are the essence of that energy. So in the moments where you're attracting in environments, or you're going into spaces where you feel all of this emotions and all of this stuff, 9 times out of 10, it's also because you felt it beforehand, and then that also triggered it. So you're feeling the collective hate that's in that room, or you're feeling the collective depression or the heaviness in that room. But why not manifest feeling the happiness? Not that, we want toxic positivity, right? We don't want to constantly negate out other emotions. But I don't know about you. Do you know the quickest and healthiest way to actually set an energetic boundary? It involves no visualizations at all. Literally simply being in a joy state, getting yourself in for me, how I can enter joy really quickly is if I get into a nostalgic conversation. If I'm talking about something nostalgic in my childhood that made me really happy. If I talk about that, and then I go into an environment that's really negative or dense, or there's a lot of people, I'm emitting this vibration of joy and happiness and love instantly. And that in of itself is its own protection. And then throughout the whole night, that's all I'm emitting out. That's all I'm feeling. And I'm getting so lost in the joy and the excitement that I don't even fucking notice the negative stuff. Now, I might see it because, I have trained myself to see trauma on people. I've trained myself to see the negative components of a person and their behavioral issues and patterns so that I can help them work through it. I might see them in that, but because I'm more focused on the joy, the peace, and the love, all of the other stuff is not, like, it's null and void. And in fact, most of it I would pour love onto it anyways. I don't need any extra energetic symbols to protect me. I don't need to put up a bubble or anything. I'm protected just by having that sense of love. So when you are struggling, if you have like a struggle of like crowds of people, or you have a hard time with, going into parties, maybe you get social anxiety. First off, you really need to deal with rejection wounds, just saying, and humiliation wounds, okay? Because there's like these 5 soul wounds that you can have in any given lifetime. And people who have a fear of, social settings and things like that, usually there's some rejection wounds from this lifetime or other lifetimes that they have, as well as humiliation wounds linked into shame, okay? So you're afraid of the judgment of others. There's some sort of subconscious belief that you have about being there, and that needs to be dealt with. So it's important in the long term, deal with that, right? But in the short term, if you're going to go to an event that you're aware that you have to go to, and maybe you can't get out of it, take some time, self-care, show some love to yourself, right? But you want to do something that brings you into a joy state. Find the thing that brings you into a joy state. I'm not kidding. You do that 5-10 minutes before you have to go somewhere, changes your fucking world. You do it, say like, I don't know, you have like a party planned or something, right? You know that party's coming. It's not changing. It's going to happen on this day and time, right? Well, if you know it's going to happen on the day and time, then the day before, do something incredibly fun, to where it almost exhausts you because you're doing something fucking fun. And then the next day, do limited amounts of things that are going to require stress or being overwhelmed. So you've just literally trained your body to like have the right amount of like battery, right? To where it's got the right amount of energy and everything. So you're going into this party with the right amount of energy, the right amount of space, and then go in with peace and love and enjoy it. And what you will find is that it will change everything. You'll have more interesting conversations with people. People will show up differently. They will respond differently to you. You will find that you don't have to like work so hard to like feel comfortable in settings that you're in, and you'll actually have fun. And for me, I started, I had a lot of exposure for therapy. I was with a girl that she's now my ex, but she constantly wanted to go to new restaurants. She wanted to go new places all the fucking time. She was always around people. And I was like anti that. I'm like the Libra cat, okay? I want to, I like people, but then I fucking need space, okay? And before her, I would go to Sedona and I would go places and I would like really spend time alone. I loved being alone. And so I couldn't understand her. Like, she's constantly having parties. She's constantly having something going on. And it made me sick. Because I would, like, have the shits. Like, because I knew there was going to be a party. And I was going to not know people there. And I wouldn't know how to deal with them. And then... and I would know she'd want to go to a new restaurant. It'd make me sick as a dog. I was scared shitless, okay? And, for me, the excitement of just being around her, and having the, experience, kind of negated out the feelings that I had right in that moment. So I would put myself in the most uncomfortable stuff. And I'd be like, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. And I was very awkward a lot at parties until I figured out the joy thing. Once I figured out the joy thing, I was like the life of the party. Like, I came alive when I would go hang out with people. I was just like, hey, what's up? Like, this is fucking fun. Like, and I felt comfortable, but it was because I had set that tone for myself. And now I give myself time to recharge, and I like understand the concept of that. And you know what? Since that relationship, that person's long gone, right? I can go in anywhere. I live in a brand new fucking state. My ass doesn't know any of the roads. I don't know fucking anywhere. And you know where you will find me when I'm not sick? On the beach. Random people walking by. Hi, how you doing? Talking to random motherfuckers. There is not a day that goes by that I'm not walking somewhere talking to somebody. My whole entire fucking sense of self is different. And it's because I went from this understanding that like, you know, like that, oh, like people are going to judge me to like, I don't know these motherfuckers from Adam. And if they're fucking judging me, then they got some fucking internal issues to deal with. I got no time for that. Life is too fucking short to spend it focused on what other people are thinking. I would rather just ask them what they're thinking and talk to them and get to know somebody new, because it might change my fucking life. One day at the beach, just sitting there talking to a random fucker who I will never talk to again might change my entire outlook on my life. And that just blew my mind, because then I started going into like restaurants and shops, and like I will ask questions up the wazoo, and not like those like prying weird questions. It's just like, dude, like you're cool. I'd like to know you. And like all of it out of nowhere, it's like I'm like comfortable. And it's because I feel comfortable in my skin. It's to the point where if some random person struck up a conversation with me, I would be like, I'd sit down, take up shop, talk to them about life, tell them what I've been up to, tell them about my feelings, tell them where I'm going next. And if I have any idea where I'm going next, changes everything. So where I'm going with this is your whole wide world. Your whole wide world needs to expand more. So when you tell me that you are an empath, I do believe you're wearing your trauma, because there is a whole wide perspective out there where you never have to tell me that you're an empath. Because honestly speaking, a true empath, a true person who feels the feelings of the collective of others, they are the embodiment of love. They do not need to tell a damn soul that they're an empath. They don't need to tell anyone they're gifted, because their actions, their words, and their thoughts align with it. You don't have to, believe me when I say, you don't have to tell anyone who you are. You can show them. And when you can show somebody, woo, baby, damn. When you can show somebody that kind of power, ugh. But then don't get me started, because sometimes I'm scrolling through TikTok and I come across this borderline shit. People love to talk about borderline stuff, okay? Like as if they know, right? They love to talk about borderline stuff. And then there's people literally on TikTok who have like they have these videos up about borderline personality disorder and how it's like a weapon, and how like it's the narcissist's worst, darkest fear. And like in the comments, I shit you not, it is disgusting. It makes me want to throw up, because like I think, like when I think of this, first off, I'm starting to smirk, because I'm like, we need to make some changes. And I feel like I am going to write a lot of content about this, because like it just disgusts me so much that I think we need to talk about it. Like, you know how it's like such a big elephant that it's just like, we need to address it. Like, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be handled, you know? Like, there's people in the comment section of these borderline posts, right, that are like, oh, I'm a borderline, I'm gonna fuck you up. And I'm just like, so then I go to the DMs, and like well, not the DMs, like, you know, the little posts, like the messages. I'm going to the messages, and people are like, oh yeah, he doesn't even see it coming. My narcissistic this, I'm like, you are so incredibly narcissistic. Like, I was sitting there the other night naturally couldn't help myself. I was scrolling through the messages, and like I'm like reading, and my girlfriend's sitting next to me, and I'm like, oh my God, that's a narcissist. Oh my God, she's a narcissist too. Oh, and I was so disgusted, but at the same time, you know how it's so disgusting you can't look away. You're just like, oh my God. And that's where I was. I was just like, I was there, okay? And I was just like, what the actual fuck is wrong with people? First off, like like no, Journey, I get that you you're saying they're still asleep, but I challenge that statement because I don't feel like they're still asleep. We're talking about some people who have the spiritual information. They have the verbiage. They have the psychological verbiage, and they're literally no different than the person they're claiming to be narcissistic. And then my ass sits back and I think of all, you know how lawyers would think about all of the legal ramifications in a situation, my ass sits back, and as a past life regression person who does that, who loves this fucking work, I sit back and I think about all of the fucking karma that people are creating by enacting the behavior. I'm sorry, I'm just having a moment where I'm just thinking about all of the fucking karma. Because, karma isn't this, a tit for a tat, or an arm for a leg, right? It's these cycles that we go through that mirror back the very essence of the energy that we don't learn. So it makes sense all those years ago when I was sitting in that domestic violent women's group, having just gone through the worst domestic violent relationship I had ever been in. And when I was sitting there and all the women in there were above the age of 50 and they were on their 5th and 6th domestic violent relationship, and I looked at the psychologist and I said, I'm sorry, how the fuck do I get out of this? And the psychologist just looks at me and she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm this amount of years old, and these are all 50-plus-year-old women, and what the fuck? Is this what I have to look forward to? Is this what I'm gonna become? And what I realized now, all these years later, was how much energetic mirrors they were experiencing and how much they had to learn differently. But they didn't see it, and most of them aren't supposed to see it. Most of them are going to die in those types of relationships. And it sounds messed up to say it that way, but think about it. There's no predestiny here. Yes, you are kind of bound to the railroad track that you decide to get on, right? Until you decide to shift off of that railroad track and you want to shift on that pretty much dead center, you're going to go exactly in the alignment to which you have established, right? You chose this, right? You can always choose differently. No different than the fleas that were conditioned to literally only be in this bowl, and then when they were released from the bowl, they stayed in the shape of the bowl because they didn't understand that they could fly free. Literally, which I don't think fleas fly, do they? They just jump, but they could fly free into the sky and then fall where they land, right? They could go somewhere, but they don't believe that they could go anywhere. So they're conditioned to that literal bowl of understanding it, and they don't know anything different. They're that is what they know. And I hate the spiritual people. Actually, no, hate is a very strong word. I very much so dislike spiritual people that literally project to others this belief that it's beneath them. Like oh, they're just not ready yet. Oh, they're just still sleeping. We're awake, but they're still sleeping. No, the fuck, that is not a fucking thing. That isn't a thing. Like, I feel like it's wrong to like sit there and say that. And I feel like it's wrong, not because like you're doing something bad. I think in a lot of ways saying that statement puts someone beneath you. Because we're all on these different experiences, these different journeys where we're exploring, we're learning, and we're growing through that. And if it takes like 8 domestic violent relationships to learn that you're worthy, then it takes 8 domestic violent relationships, and I am right there with them. I don't know about you, but as a spiritual holistic practitioner, I will be on the floor with a person, mourning with them, whether it's their 8th domestic violent relationship or their first one. I don't give a shit how many times somebody needs to learn something. We come here to earth and we experience these finite experiences that are so limited. And we think in that limited understanding that we can't do anything outside of that. And sometimes it takes a journey to get to that point. Everything ends up being a choice. I truly believe that everything in this earth on this experience is a choice. And we are all set in the railroad tracks we've established. But if you're willing to change that, and I like using the railroad tracks as an example because then it tells you that you're always going to be divinely aligned with whatever you have agreed to do or choose to do actively. You know, like say, and this is how I know there's not predestiny, because I had an astrologer one time. She looked at my cards and she said, based on the cards that, like, I had these certain cards that represented psychic mediumship, right? And she'd look at the cards and she'd go, okay, so you're supposed to be just a medium. You're supposed to be just a medium. And I couldn't understand why she would say that. Like, it made me angry because I was just like, there's no way I'm just meant to be a fucking medium. And like that in of itself, I feel like was the message because it made me go outside my box. I was like, you fucking think that I'm supposed to be just a fucking medium? I went through all that cult shit. And I got shunned, and I went through all this trauma just to be a fucking medium. And there's nothing wrong with mediums, by the way, at all. It's just that, like, I'm like, come on. Like, there's, like, I don't want to just, like, talk to people's loved ones and deliver messages, you know. I wanted to, like, do something more. Like, I couldn't stand reading someone and like, just sitting with that. I wanted to help somebody work through problems. I want to hold someone's hand. And when I said that to that astrologer, I'll never forget, she whipped her head around and said, well, then you should go into psychology and study psychology instead of doing this work. And I sat back and I'm like, this. Like, no, I'm kidding. I took that and I was like, I really am going to take this to heart and think about how this fucking aligns with me. Thank you so much. And then I left and I went to another astrologer. And this astrologer blew the gasket open because she looked at my destiny card. She looked at several other like birth chart numerology things. And she said, look, you have it in your cards to do whatever the fuck you want spiritually. She's like, yeah, I'm just going to tell you right now. I'm not even going to read these cards right now, but I'm going to tell you, go do what the fuck you want, Brittany. Go do what you want. She said, you're never going to be in a box. Do what the fuck you want. People will study you like later on in your life because you have come up with some crazy ass thing that works. Okay. So go do it. Go explore it. Go adventure into the great unknown and create something. And I sat back and I was like, is it in my destiny? Is it in my fucking destiny? And she looks at me and she said, what do you mean, is it in your destiny? And I said, is it in my destiny? And she said, you're a psychic medium and you're asking me if it's in your destiny. And I was like, yeah. She said, you need to do some trauma healing. And that's how she ended the session. And I shit you not, since then, I've done work on self-doubt. I've done work on doubting my own abilities. I've done work on how I see myself as a psychic, how I see myself as a medium. I've done work on quantum healing, akashic records, which blew my mind, by the way. I have a whole theory on akashic records. Literally, I've done a lot of fucking spiritual work. Even the breath work stuff, which I highly don't recommend for if you're not far enough along on your journey and you go into like breath work, that will fucking that will make it a little bit more difficult to understand your emotions. Just saying that. So I caution that. I needed a lot of help after I got done with breath work. Like a lot of emotional help. God, I got lost in that for a second. Okay, anyways. So so when you come to Earth, there's no fucking destiny. However, based in what name you choose, what bodysuit you choose, what parents you choose, all of that is going to condition you to be called into certain things. And based in those callings, I guess you could say, you're going to have certain variables that cause you to go in certain directions. And based in those certain directions, you're going to get callings more so in that area. And it's just going to keep going on and on and on. It is like as if you start out and you are a train on a railroad, okay? Like the railroad tracks. And you are flying down the railroad tracks. And then somebody, like you come in and you have somebody sometimes pull the lever on the side of the railroad tracks and have them flip it, right? And because they flip those railroad tracks, it shifts and then you go into another trajectory or another energy. And that is how I fucking feel our spiritual paths and our callings and all of that. That's how it is. So literally, quite literally, you can find comfort in knowing that once you've set out on a course, that it was always meant to be yours, right? It was your divine calling, right? But in the end, it's still your choice. And you can choose to do anything. Just like there is a timeline out there that there is no Brittany Larson that exists. There's a timeline out there that girl at 16 years old who wanted to unalive herself actually did. And she unalived herself as Brittany Akers, which was my maiden name. Just like there was a timeline out there where there was a Brittany Larson that never got divorced. There was a Brittany Larson that actually stayed married to that man who treated her really good. And she had 2 kids. There's a Brittany Larson out there that never made it past her 20s because she unalived. And there's a Brittany Larson out there who's doing something entirely different than what I'm doing right now. But based on the variables that I've been presented with, I made the active choice to continue forward, creating its own little railroad track. And I can know without a doubt that as long as I stay the course, I will continue down that railroad track. So you, no matter where you are, how lost you feel, how many emotions are coming up, you can make the choice to stay on whatever railroad track you want. You don't like your reality right now. Maybe you don't feel like you're doing enough because you feel called to do something. Then do it. Just like the stuff going on with the government. And I started this live, talking about my client who, every time I talk to her, we talk about politics. And she came in and she, started talking about, like Trump, right? And she's really upset about this. Very upset, right? And it ended up being that there's a past life related to slavery and having a master dominate her and condemn her. And I sat back and I'm like, okay. So I understand that you're feeling the slavery part, right? You're feeling the powerlessness. You're feeling that hatred, that anger, feeling judged. And she's like, yes, I feel that. And she's like sobbing. And I'm like, pause this. And I said, I want you to feel into what it must be like to be that master. That's despicable. It's disgusting. I can't. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you to feel into this. Through that, she has found a calling that she never even once thought about. Because my next words out of my mouth were, what does this feel like for you? What does it feel like to be this energy? I can't identify with it. I can't identify. Oh. And I'm like, yeah, there it is. And once she saw it, then she's like, oh my God, I'm no different. And she said, I still don't like him. And I'm like, you don't have to like him. But what does it call you to do? What does it call you to do exactly? I said, because we're all living out our callings, right? Like, I choose, and I've chosen for like years now, to post videos to invoke emotional responses in people, to help them shift, change, and transform their lives. And it's taken me so many places. I created a business out of it, everything in between that. That is my choice. That's what I've been called to do. I don't feel called to protest. I don't feel called to, go get on a panel somewhere and argue about political rights and views. I don't feel that call. I feel that call to explore emotions, trauma, and to help people find their calling, to find their motivation. I feel that call. So what do you feel called to do? Some people feel called to protest. Some people feel called to write books about it, write, posts about it. But what is your calling you into doing? And that is for each and every one of you. There's no right or wrong answer to that. You get to choose what aligns with you and what doesn't align with you. And it will not matter what physically shows up in your reality. You have to remember that every single physical thing that is reflecting in your reality is something to learn from. The law of correspondence, universal law of correspondence, states that all energy externally is internal. So before it shows up in front of you, it's something internal going on here. So that government system, the restrictions, the conflicts, the family conflicts, the relationship conflicts, all of that calls you into an action. It calls you into an experience. And you can see the hopelessness. You can see from the viewpoint of being powerless. Or you can also see from the viewpoint of the other shadow part of it. And that is life-changing. Absolutely life-changing. I don't know about you, but that's why I love past life regression, because when I work with people and I have them feel into past lives that they had, right? I never let them just stay in that story. I'm like, let's go over here and feel this. I want to feel this. I want you to feel this. What is it like to be like the one who actually murdered you in that lifetime? Well, that's sadistic. I wouldn't want to know what it's like. No, I want you to feel into it. Because that's where the healing is. Because that person taking that direct action had nothing to do with you. I mean, it was very personal, felt personal, didn't it? But there's something behind it that needs to be learned. And that's what fascinates me. That's why I'm so fascinated with the study of serial killers. That's why I have that whole podcast just on, crimes that have been committed, heinous acts that have been done, and what's the spiritual components of them. Because it blows my mind when I look at these serial killers. There is no part of me that sees any evil left. There's no in these, and it's not like there's a serial killer is condemned on the other side. My mind is blown because when I called in John Wayne Gacy, And John Wayne Gacy committed all of these fucking heinous acts, right? Everyone condemned him as a society. You know what a question I asked him was? I was like, all right, just be straight with me here. Like, is there components of your life that nobody understood about you and they condemned you and didn't understand anything about you? And he's like, listen, he's like, people didn't know that I fiercely loved. And I sat back and I was like, what do you mean? And he was referencing his children, and he was referencing his relationship and the loves of his life. He loved them. 1010% loved them. And I was just like, because, you know, there's like some really heinous people in history, like, you know, because I've talked about like the Holocaust, the people involved with the Holocaust. I've talked about some really, like, because when I've done classes and I've taught like universal law, that is a topic that constantly comes up, like, about the Holocaust. They're like, you mean to tell me that like we chose to come to Earth and experience that? I'm like, there is such a powerful lesson in understanding that. And then also saying that a soul is condemned or that a soul is lost. Bullshit. Bullshit. The reason that I say bullshit is because, like, you mean to tell me, hear me out, because there's a lot of mediums on this app that believe that there's non-crossed over spirits. And at one time, I've truly believed that there's non-crossed over spirits because of how they energetically show up in the spirit realm. But it's because I was asking that question. When you enter a space where somebody has passed away, maybe it was unlawful, maybe it was heinous, maybe it was just like the most gruesome passing away, okay? There's an energetic signature there. It isn't a conscious form. There's an energetic signature there. Hear me out. I've walked in there. I've seen the energetic signature. Just me seeing it, feeling it, experiencing it, I can call in that soul, right? Because that's part of being a medium. I can bridge between realities, right? Bridge literally right down to bring that energy forward, right? So that energy comes forward. They come in the energetic signature that I call them in. No different than the serial killer. Like when I call like Eileen Wuornos forward, she's going to show up based on the energetic signature I'm calling her in on. But if I ask to see her soul now, it's nothing like it was when it was here. The same thing with John Wayne Gacy. Like my mind is like blown because I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I haven't been asking the right questions. Like, it makes so much fucking sense. And it would make sense as a medium that you want to call a person in the likeness of the energy that they were showing up here on Earth, because you want to find validating evidence to reflect back to the person. But I don't fucking do that kind of work. I don't fucking want to talk to your loved one who showed up a certain way. I want to talk to the loved one that fucked shit up in your life and you need some fucking serious healing. And you're not going to get it from the person that showed up that way. You're going to get it from the person that shows up differently. You're going to get it from the soul that evolved. So I'm going to call in their higher self. I'm going to call in the soul that evolved. I'm going to call in the soul that went in front of the karmic board, who did some fucked up shit, and they didn't get judgment. But yeah, so I truly believe there's no non-crossed over spirits. I really don't believe there is any crossover. Like, I feel that, like, and think about it this way. Why would a soul choose a bodysuit and then decide not to cross over? Especially given that crossing over, you get to see all of your ancestors and you can travel from realm to realm. You don't have to stay stuck in the earth. Like, that's fucking crazy. Okay, but it's not crazy, but it's like, it just makes so much more sense. Like, because, like, you chose it anyway. So, like, when you get on the other side, you're like, I'm done with that shit. You know, but maybe you are attached to your family members, but that would be an energetic signature that's attached, not the actual soul itself, because the soul itself is evolved as fuck. The soul itself is like limitless. It's infinite. It's eternal. It's not a finite body. It's not a finite mind. So it's not bound and tethered and corded. And then why in the fuck? Why in the motherfuck? Why would there be, okay, just hear me out, because like this blew my mind too. You know how slavery has happened, how there has been genocide that's happened. I just recently posted about this. Like, there's been all this crazy shit that's happened all this time, right? The Holocaust happened. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands, millions of people have died. Okay? Hear me out. You think that ghosts can hurt you? They would have already done it, honey. You think demons exist and can hurt you? Sweetheart, they would have already done that to you. Look at. So then you have to factor this in, because fears are real, right? If you believe that there is an energy that can render you powerless, right? Then that's a trauma. Number one, you need to deal with your trauma. And we need to deal with some religious beliefs that you have, that you feel that you are in this confine of doing right versus wrong. And if you do wrong, then you're going to get, like tormented and things like that, right? But think about this, okay? Just hear me out. If things could have actually been done by these quote unquote powerful beings or extraterrestrials that are taking the children and doing weird things to the bodies, then wouldn't it already been done? Just a thought. Because I work with extraterrestrial spirit guides. I can tell you right now, not one of them are even close to the human capacity that we're at. They got nothing to take from our human experience. Nothing. Literally nothing. So then, like, I go back to this whole, in most extraterrestrials, they can't even materialize into the 3D because it actually hurts them to do that. So you mean to tell me there's something evil sitting there in the corner waiting to take you? What in the name of it's all about you victim mentality are you in? I just thought I should say that. Just calling it out here. Just need to say that. So in that construct, I'm going to say this. Anything that you're afraid of, anything that invokes fear inside of you is something that needs to be healed. It is literally a wake-up call for you. It's an energetic defibrillator presenting itself as an opportunity for you to defibrillate, to learn something about yourself. So if you believe that something can render you powerless, I want to stress to you that you are so valid in that fear. I am here for you. And I would love to help you in session work. I'm not kidding. There are people who are attached. Like I had a husband and wife one time come in, and the husband called me up because his wife was cheating on him with a ghost. I'm not fucking kidding. It's a thing. It was back in my Chinese medicine days. Like, I swear to fucking God, that Chinese medicine mentor, like, I don't know why, for the love of Jesus balls, like, why? Working with him brought me such a weird clientele, but that shit was weird as fuck, okay? And I learned a lot about attachment from that. Also have had clients, a lot of them come in who have gotten so many readings from different psychics and mediums, and all they were looking for was messages from passed away people. Like, and they were using it as a crutch to deal with their grief. And I gotta be honest with you, that is why I do this work this way. Because, like, I don't want to be a crutch for you. I want to kind of, like, Spartan kick your ass down a rabbit hole you can't come out of. Because you need to go down that rabbit hole and you need to deal with your shit. And if you're attracted to booking a session with me, then that means that there's something you're ready to heal and deal with, because it's gonna happen. You are gonna get so fucking triggered. Oh my God, Jesus, Lord, help me. Whew. And that's how we do it. It is what it has to be, right? How do we book? Link in the bio or BrittanyLarson.com. And remember, guys, that no matter what you go through in this world, you are not alone, not even close. And I know there's a lot of fear going on, especially right now, and especially on this app. There's so much like spreading of misinformation, and there's so much going on where people feel like they are lost, that there's no way out, that they're going to have to leave America, or they're going to lose everything, or they're going to lose this app, or they're going to lose this or that. I want to stress to you guys are so not alone, and it's okay. No matter what the fuck happens, you are going to be okay. And that's not just coming from me, that's coming from spirit. And I hope you can feel that love that surrounds you all the time. Anyways, on that note, I have rambled on for an hour, almost 2 hours. We're 5 minutes away from 2 hours. And I just want you to know that you are so loved and you are so important and so valid. If you're looking to book with me, my link information is in the bio. If not, I will see you around soon. I will be live again here in the next coming days. And yeah, I'll see you guys around. Bye.